Let's talk about everyone's favorite topic in the month of October, the NFL trade deadline. The Browns have some trade targets slash candidates that might catch their eye. So I want to run through some of the biggest names that might be moved over the next few weeks and whether or not the Browns could be involved or be a legitimate landing spot for some of these players. So let's start by looking internally here. Amari Cooper has been mentioned in a lot of trade circles because of the slow start to the season for himself and for the Browns, thus making him an attractive option for other teams. Say, like the Kansas City Chiefs, who reportedly have Cooper at the top of their wish list with injuries to Hollywood Brown and then most recently Rashee Rice. Now, it's important to note that Amari Cooper had his contract restructured before the year, and it lowered his base salary to $1.2 million. That's an important fact because when we get into trade conversations, whenever you're talking about trading for a player, you got to look at what their base salary is, all right? Just keep math easy here. Let's call it $1 million base salary. Then you take that $1 million and you divide it by 18. That's how many weeks there are in the NFL season. Every single one of those 18 is a game check, and that's how much the players get paid every single week. So with every week that passes, more and more of their base salary has already been paid by the pre-existing team. So as the weeks go by, whoever is getting moved is going to be cheaper since more of their base salary has been paid out. Now, at $1.2 million, that's a very, very small base salary and a very, very small cap hit for any team to be taking on even just half of it. So for the Chiefs or for any other team, it wouldn't be very difficult financially to get a trade done for Cooper. But when it comes to the Browns actually trading him, I think a lot more losing has to happen. I don't think the Browns are anywhere near surrendering this season or accepting defeat and deciding, let's try and get some assets for guys that we don't see coming back in 2025. I think they are still very much bought in on winning this year. Sure, a 1-3 start is not ideal, but a lot of teams in the AFC are struggling right now. I don't think the Browns are ready to throw in the towel, and trading Amari Cooper is definitely a sign of exactly that. So for me, I think we have a long ways to go until the Browns become serious contenders to trade away some of their players like Cooper. I would be shell-shocked if we saw a Cooper trade go down within the next 1 to 2 weeks. Now, the pinned comment on today's video, would you trade Cooper for a third-round draft pick? I don't think you're even getting a third because he's had such a rocky season, and that's being nice. Probably more like a fourth and a fifth, but let me know. Cooper for a third. If the Chiefs called right now and said, will you take Cooper for a third round, or can we get Cooper for a third round pick, would you do that? Scroll on down and let me know while this video ad rolls. I also just want to point out an absolute hysterical idea that Dan Graziano tossed out in an ESPN article where he wrote, Cooper would be one to watch for Pittsburgh, though it'd be an in-division trade, and those are tough to execute. Yeah, Dan, there is a, how do you put it? 0% chance that Amari Cooper gets traded from the Browns to the Steelers. If this happens, I will do a polar plunge in Lake Erie in February. Book it right now. If Amari Cooper gets dealt from the Browns to the Steelers, polar plunge. There is just no way the Browns would do this trade to aid the Steelers, even if it gave Cleveland a draft pick. 0% chance. So, Dan, keep your jokes to yourself. Keep working on your stand-up routine because that's not it. Let's look at some other trade candidates for the NFL trade deadline this year. Davante Adams, I think, is as good as gone. I don't see a way he comes back to the Raiders with just somewhat of the fallout over the last week. Antonio Pierce liking an Instagram post that said Davante Adams has played his last snap in Las Vegas. Even if Pierce said that was an accident, the damage is done, in my opinion. Adams, of course, informed the Raiders he would like a trade, and rumor from NFL Network is the New York Jets with his old buddy Aaron Rodgers is his preferred destination. Now, unlike Amari Cooper, Adams has a very big base salary, $16.8 million. So I did the math for you guys, including some bonuses. Essentially, Davante Adams gets paid about a little under $1 million each week. So if you were to trade for Davante Adams right now, you would need to have about $13-ish million in cap space to get his contract on your books. But of course, if you wait closer to the NFL trade deadline, November 5th, the Raiders will have paid out more game checks of his that the new team would not be responsible for, and thus it's going to be a little bit cheaper. Now, you can always just ask the Raiders to pay the remainder of his salary, and sometimes teams will do that if it gets them a better draft pick in return. So the money's kind of complicated, but it's very important to these trades, and also can be very fluid depending on who picks up what bill. Like, for example, the Browns took on all of Jerry Jeudy's contract from the Broncos, but in exchange for that, the Broncos did not get as great of a draft pick return as they could have if they ate some of the money, but their motivation was to get his contract off their books. My prediction is Adams is a Jet. I think the Jets are going to get desperate. The Jets have bent the knee to Aaron Rodgers a dozen times, and he's only been there for a year and a half at this point. So if Rodgers wants Adams and Adams wants to go to Rodgers, there's going to get a deal, right? There's a deal that will be done here. So I don't think it's going to be for another 2 or so weeks because I think the Jets are probably going to try and get that price down a little bit, whether it's trade value or trade compensation or just his overall sticker price of his base salary remaining this season. But yeah, Adams, you're a New York Jet. Now, I will say, Andrew Berry, he loves a good wide receiver trade. So we've seen him make moves for Cooper, Moore, and Jeudy. I don't think it's a 0% chance that Berry at least calls Las Vegas and asks what the asking price is for Adams, given that he was in on Brandon Ayuk, which I don't think is apples to apples because Ayuk is much younger than Davante Adams, so there's a potential of finding a long-term piece at receiver, whereas Adams, I wouldn't quite call him a rental. He might redo his contract, but beyond 2024, he still has 2 years left on his contract, and it's decently big money. So the money factor for Davante Adams is going to be a major hurdle for teams to get past when trying to execute a trade. Might be something that kind of stands in the way a little bit. So I would not hold my breath on Adams going to the Browns. I don't think he's going to go to the Steelers. I think he's going to the Jets. Now, we're going to have a watch party on Sunday for Browns versus Commanders, and I got the green light to do another jersey raffle on Sunday if we can get 50 new subscribers from today's video and 300 likes. So if you're already subscribed, hit that thumbs up button. And if you are not subscribed, hit that sub button. Help us get 50 new subs for a jersey raffle on Sunday. Third trade candidate, DeAndre Hopkins. Feels like it is summer of 2023 all over again because we're still trying to get Deshaun Watson comfortable in this offense. And a great way to do that is to bring in a familiar face for him, someone he had a lot of chemistry with back in Houston. Although I'm not necessarily completely on board with just opening up the yearbook and going, hey, it's 2024, but you know what the solution to our offensive woes is? Let's get something that worked 4 years ago. That to me doesn't scream winning recipe, right? Trying to get the band back together. I don't know, Jim. I don't think that's the way the Browns should pursue fixing this offense. But if it does happen, I think it's a Hail Mary trade. One, I could see the Titans being open to trading Hopkins. He's on the last year of his contract. He's banged up, which is definitely something to factor into anyone pursuing DeAndre Hopkins. But they've got Calvin Ridley. Maybe they feel like they can kind of reset a little bit this year and get some more draft capital and get ready for next season as they are off to a 1-3 start as well. But I could only see this happening if the Browns are right there at the trade deadline. They're below 500 and Berry feels pressure to make some type of move because staying still and doing nothing is going to change nothing and you're going to finish below 500. So he calls up Tennessee and goes, all right, what do you want for Hopkins? I got to make some last-ditch effort to save my quarterback in this offense. And if that means reuniting his old pal from 4 years ago, we'll give it a go. Personally, I don't think it's going to yield tremendous results, but it could be a Hail Mary effort. Fourth trade target, offensive tackle Walker Little. I saw his name mentioned in an ESPN write-up, kind of highlighting the latest NFL trade buzz, and I thought this might catch your guys' attention as well. Fowler said the Jaguars have 3 starting caliber offensive tackles with Walker Little as the odd man out. Teams always need offensive line help and will make calls accordingly. And the Browns definitely fit the bill of a team potentially needing offensive line help. First, some background on Little. He was a second-round pick out of Stanford just a few years ago. He's in the final year of his rookie contract. He's got a boatload of experience, 17 starts, 44 games. This year, he's primarily just been on the bench, 25 snaps, 0 starts, just filling in at odd and end times when an injury happens to maybe Anton Harrison. But overall, this is a depth piece that is somewhat buried on the Jags bench. And an 0-4 Jaguars team may very well be open to selling. I think they should be. And if a team calls for a guy that's on their bench and they can get something for someone that's probably going to leave in free agency in a few months, then I could see Jacksonville being very receptive to that kind of trade talk. So last year we saw the greatest volume from Little, 659 snaps. By the way, I love offensive linemen with the last name Little. It's the best. But 58.8 overall. We're looking at an average at best starting tackle. At least that's what he's been so far in his NFL career. But let's look at the Browns offensive line depth chart because we've got Jed Wills and Jack Conklin questionable Sunday against the Commanders. Wills returned 2 weeks ago, then somewhat re-aggravated his injury, left the game, missed the Raiders matchup. Just when Jack Conklin was about to return, hamstring injury pops up. There's no guarantee that Wills or Conklin, when they return, will stay on the field. Those injuries could flare up again as well. James Hudson gave us a scare today, was somewhat placed on IR just mistakenly by Kevin Stefanski. So he's still dealing with a shoulder injury. But yeah, you've got your 3 top tackles, or 3 out of your 4 top tackles. Actually, I'll say all 4 tackles are dealing with an injury right now. Wills, Conklin are both recovering from their knee injuries, and Conklin now has a hamstring injury. I've got James Hudson dealing with a shoulder injury. I've got Duwan Jones dealing with obesity and a sore knee. So 4 top tackles of yours are not in a great spot. This could be another Hail Mary effort by Andrew Berry if he feels like the offensive line is the last thing or the thing that's holding back the Browns. And if they can go get an improvement or at least another body to get into camp and see if they can get something going, they may throw something at it. I would not rush a trade like this, though, because, I don't think Walker Little is going to have a huge market as a backup offensive tackle, so you can probably wait a little bit just to see if you can get some healthy, productive play out of 2 out of those 4 tackles, Wills, Conklin, Jones, or Hudson. Before we look at my 5th and final trade target, help me help you guys by getting this awesome Browns t-shirt combo 25% off. You don't just get the Browns t-shirt, you also get the hat as well. I want to make sure you guys are looking stylish. I want to make sure you guys are repping the latest Browns gear. So go to chatsports.com/CLE combo. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. So if you want to up your Browns wardrobe a little bit while saving some money, get this Browns t-shirt and hat combo 25% off when you use our link. 5th and final trade candidate, Jets outside linebacker Haason Reddick. This has been one of the more, I think, fascinating stories of the 2024 NFL season. Reddick continues his holdout. Every single game he misses, he is fined $800,000. I know these guys are all millionaires, but for you and me, just think about that. Skip one day of work, $800,000. But anyway, he has pretty much picked up a bar tab of about $10 million in fines from mandatory minicamp to present day. So he is not budging, it appears. I don't know why he would budge now in October. The Jets don't really seem motivated to get anything done. It's an all-time blunder by them to give up a draft pick for someone who is holding out because they didn't know about his contract situation before they traded for him. Mind-blowing to me. But maybe the Browns, with Alex Wright's injury, pick up the phone, call the Jets, and go, listen, Reddick is just wasting your time. He's not going to play for you. You're not going to extend him. So why don't you just both shake hands and move on and go your separate ways? And we'll take Reddick off of your hands. And maybe Barry feels like Haason Reddick could be the answer to the Browns' slow start defensively with Alex Wright out for the season. Myles Garrett playing through a half a dozen injuries. if he feels like the turnaround for this team has to start on defense. There's really no better way to do that than pressuring the quarterback, something Haason Reddick has done very well over the last 4 years. Now, if you're trading for Reddick, you shouldn't make the same mistake the Jets did. You have to have some kind of contract plan in place, whether that's just more guaranteed money for this year. He wants an extension. I don't think the Browns want to give him an extension just based on his age, but if the Browns and Barry feel like that is the quickest way to turning around this season, generating pressure on the quarterback with the injuries the Browns have at the defensive end position, Reddick could be of use to Cleveland. So, with that being said, let me know which trade of the 5 is your favorite. Trading away Amari Cooper to get something for him now. Acquiring Adams, which definitely feels like a huge long shot. Hopkins, I think, has a better chance than Adams. Walker Little as a depth piece on the offensive line to kind of fill in the gaps as you kind of battle injuries across all 4 tackles. Or Haason Reddick to try and save the defense a little bit. For me personally, I'd pass on all 5. I'm not interested in trading away Amari Cooper. I don't want to do that right now. I'm not at that stage yet. Adams feels like a very, very, very big long shot. It would be super cool. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Adams coming to Cleveland is going to create a winning team all of a sudden. He was in Las Vegas for a while, and they haven't won a whole lot. So I don't think he's just a natural winner wherever he goes. And then Hopkins, I think, is old and injured. Walker Little, if the Browns start to pick up even more serious long-term injuries at the tackle position, like they don't get Wills or Conklin back, something goes wrong, they come back and they get injured again, okay, that's a fine trade. It's not going to cost you very much. Reddick, I think, is just a headache, just figuring out what you want to give up for him and then what kind of contract you are going to give him. So as fun as that might be, that might not be a bad one just to sit out altogether. So I'd probably pass on all of them. Little seems like the most, I wouldn't say likely, but has the most amount of legs to it if the injuries continue to plague this Browns offensive line. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. If you did, give us a like, and I'll see you all on Sunday for our watch party.